I started playing chess seriously in January of 2022, and around 12 months later, I was already 2000 ELO. You might have seen a video like this before, except it's made by a titled player. They're titled, and not only are they much better than you and I will ever be, their path to success is entirely different than the one that you'll need to take. So, how does a chess amateur get to 2000 ELO in just 12 months? So, where do we start? Well, first of all, you'll need to learn an opening for both white and black, and if you can believe it, this is where a lot of people already mess up, and it's maybe where you messed up. If you choose an opening that is beyond your comprehension, you're going to have a very difficult time putting all of the pieces of the puzzle together. And what I mean by this is there are a lot of openings that you should stay away from if you're an amateur in chess. A lot of them have complicated ideas, and the games get too messy for your comprehension. It becomes too much to handle, and you don't really learn anything because there is simply too much to learn at once. A lot of people are very stubborn about this, and they don't want to change their openings because they see their favorite grandmaster play it and they want to be like them. But for the realists out there, as white, I highly recommend you play the London system. A lot of people hate it. I love it. It's super easy to learn, and once you learn it, you can go ahead and learn some other things. With the black pieces, I highly recommend you play the Khan. It's again very simple and a similar pawn structure to the London system. Very easy to understand, and most importantly, there are so many resources out there in which you can learn these two openings. If you want my recommendations, I learned from Alex Banzia, an international master from France, and I also learned from, of course, Gotham Chess. Now that we've made it past the opening, what do we do once we get to the middle game? And this is where puzzles come into play. And if you can believe it, when I started playing chess, I would actually play more puzzles than I would games per day. I would play around 4 hours of straight puzzles. My thought process behind this was, well, I can't find wins in my games, so if I can find wins in my puzzles, maybe I can apply those ideas to my games. Puzzles are all about pattern recognition, and if you play enough puzzles, you'll eventually be able to apply what you've learned in them to your games. The same positions will pop up, the same mates will pop up, and the same ideas will too. And a lot of you are probably thinking, well, I already do this. I already play a lot of puzzles and it doesn't seem to help. Well, I think a big problem that a lot of people have is they think they're playing puzzles, but really they're not. I really recommend you play Puzzle Rush Survival, and the reason for this is it trains not only your puzzles, but your patience. I see a lot of people play puzzles, and they spend maybe 10, 20, 30 seconds on a puzzle, and they give up. They learn nothing, they accept that the puzzle was too hard, and they deliberately get the answer wrong, so they can move on to the next puzzle. This is a catastrophic mistake even high-rated players make, and it's really just down to bad discipline. In my opinion, you should be spending at least a few minutes on each puzzle with a maximum of maybe 10 minutes of a puzzle. If you spend 10 minutes on a puzzle, then maybe the puzzle was too hard for you and you need to understand why. I guarantee you, if you've been playing puzzles and only been looking at it for a few seconds before you deliberately get it wrong just so you can move on to the next puzzle, try this method of really pushing yourselves, and I guarantee you will learn so much. Take it from me. Here is a clip of earlier this year where I got to 306 in a puzzle rush on stream. It took me 92 hours over a 6-day period. I feel like this is the biggest mistake anyone will make in their chess journey. It's not a matter of not knowing what to do, it's a matter of knowing what to do but not knowing that you're doing it in the complete wrong way. If you do have chess.com Diamond or you can afford it, I highly recommend you go through all of the default chess.com courses that walk you through puzzles and tactics like this and explain exactly why things are the way that they are. Now that we've spoken about openings and middle games, we need to talk about endgames. This is a position that might look a little bit daunting no matter which side you are on. If a queen trade occurs, we are going to undouble pawns here, and this is going to be a completely drawn endgame. You might have heard the advice, never resign. It's popularized by Gotham Chess. He really recommends that amateurs never resign games because it is never too late for your opponent to blunder. Whilst I completely agree with that, I think that it goes even deeper and you should never draw a game. This game looks completely drawn, and to tell you the truth, it is completely drawn. We traded off queens and they recaptured, but it did not end in a draw. My opponent here is 1899 Blitz, and after several moves continuing this, they just did not play correctly. They let me in. After captures, they played king out, I played king a5, and simply my king got into the position after a mistake in the endgame. For anyone that hasn't realized, in this position, the king simply gets in, white will run out of moves. In this situation, they tried to create something here, but it simply wasn't working. This pawn would run, the king comes back, and the game is completely over. This pawn will queen, and this pawn will not arrive in time. Contrary to popular belief, this is not luck. You do not win endgames like this by getting lucky that your opponent made a mistake. You win endgames like this for being better at endgames than your opponent is. Become a better chess player by winning more games than you lose, and if you can turn drawn positions like this into wins, then you'll become a better chess player. Chess.com has a section of their website dedicated to endgames. You can get there by clicking learn, and then clicking endgames, and then picking whatever endgame you want to play. You do need a Chess.com membership to get this feature, but there are plenty of other ways that you can practice your endgames, and it is absolutely necessary for getting to 2000 ELO. As you can see by my Chess.com analytics down here, 60% of my games end in the endgame compared to 50% of the average person. The reason I think this is so important is if you know your endgames and you're confident in them, you can make wins out of literally nothing. It is no secret that a lot of chess games are simply drawn, especially at the Grandmaster level. You'll see them draw almost every game that they played. If you watch the Chess World Championship between Ding Liren and Jan Nepomniachtchi, you would notice that 9 times out of 10 they would just draw. And it's why endgames are so important at the amateur level, in my opinion. You need to do everything you can to turn the odds into your favor so you can win the ELO in every game that you play. And if you can turn games like this, which are completely drawn, into wins for you, that is incredibly useful. The best part about these endgames is that you can pretty much go on autopilot as you play them. They're very simple, and once you remember the basic idea and concept of an endgame like this, you probably won't forget it. It's different to puzzles in that sense, where you might have 2 endgames that are exactly the same. They use the same concepts, and you can use the same thought process to solve the endgame. Let's be real, you need as much ELO as you can get, and if learning an endgame and winning an endgame means you get ELO, you should be doing it, because I guarantee a lot of you have been ignoring your endgames, and it's a massive reason why you're not as good at chess as you would like to be. So we've touched on the openings, middle games, and endgames, so what do we do now? Well, one of the most important factors in improving your chess is not just understanding when you're wrong, but understanding why you're wrong. I played this game last night. I went on to lose this position, but at one point I had a plus 1.9 advantage. This is an anti-Dutch. The idea is that you want to go rook g1 and just absolutely destroy the black's king and punish it for castling too early. In this position, I made the blunder of knight f3. This is a complete blunder, but in my head, I wanted to stop queen g5 because it would force the trade-off of my queen. This is a blunder because e4 arrives, and this knight gets kicked out anyway. This queen is allowed this g5 square, and I pretty much lose all of my temper. The problem in this position was I got tunnel vision. I really wanted to keep my queen on the board because I'm not used to transforming anti-Dutch positions into materially winning positions. I usually like to go for checkmate or grab a lot of material and not just be up positionally. Maybe this is a foreign language to you, but to me it's not. And you just have to apply this kind of thinking to your own games. When you go and lose a game, you need to look back and figure out where it went wrong. Sometimes it's more obvious and other times it's not. If you completely blunder a queen, I would ignore it because you know exactly where you went wrong. But if you make a positional mistake and you play a move that you don't actually think is that bad, you need to understand why it was bad and how you can not do that next time. Oftentimes, this can be in the form of gambits. You accept a gambit only to realize that you get a terrible position, or maybe you even lose more material than you gained to begin with. Nonetheless, analyzing your games is a crucial part of developing your chess ability. And I think it's more important to note that analyzing his game is more than clicking analysis and seeing if you got a high accuracy or not. A lot of people will get drawn into that. It's so easy to look at material things. You'll look at a review when you played well, it boosts your ego, it makes you feel good, but it doesn't actually help you in any way whatsoever. Before we end, there is one more thing I want to teach you all. If you've been playing chess for any amount of time, you would know that one of the ways that you can win is by flagging your opponent. Now, I'm not encouraging you to play quickly and try to flag your opponent at every given opportunity, but we have established that you're playing a very basic opening. You should be faster out of the gates than your opponent in the opening. You have good knowledge in the middle game with your puzzles, and you are pretty well drilled in your endgames as well. You should definitely take your time when you have important moves to make, but when you think that you have an easy move to make, just make it, especially with recaptures. If you have a recapture, you could even pre-move it and it saves some time on your clock. Time management is such an underrated part of chess, and it often separates a good player from a great player. Take this game for example. It's a game I played not too long ago against a candidate master from Ghana. He had an incredible position and I only had 23 seconds left on the clock. After a few moves, I actually ended up getting a decent position. The rooks were traded off, and we ended up in this opposite color bishop's endgame, which is actually a dead draw, even though he's up 2 pawns. Now, this should be a draw, but because I had such little time on the clock, there weren't enough easy moves for me to make in the time that I had left, and I was certainly not going to flag him. So in the end, we played a bunch of moves, and eventually he won because I ran out of time. Earlier in the game, my opponent was pressing me on the clock, and he did that really well. It drained my clock, and I evidently ran out of time and he won the game. It seems like a very small thing, it also seems like maybe a cheap thing to do, but I promise you, it's being done to you. If you're not doing it, you are the victim in this case, and people are taking your elo with this method. This was an incredible game. In the opening phase, both me and my opponent got 98% accuracy, in the middle game it was 97, and in the end game it was 89 for him and 88 for me. The only thing that separated us in this game was his better time management, and I promise you it is not a trick, it is a skill. Time management is a massive skill, and I guarantee if we played 100 times, this guy would beat me more often than not, solely because his time management is better than mine. So where does that bring us? We've touched on everything so far, and you've probably not heard too many things that you haven't heard before. And I'm hoping that for some people, this is just a moment of realization that you have all of the resources in front of you, and you are the missing piece. You're not doing things correctly, you're not disciplined about what you are doing, and you're never going to increase your chess elo if you don't do these things. A lot of people look for these videos in search of an easy way to get elo, but the reality is chess is not easy. It took me hours a day for all of these 12 months. I would say I spent maybe 8 hours a day playing chess to get 2000 elo in 12 months. It is not an easy thing to do, and it will never be an easy thing to do no matter who you are. You need to put in the work, and if you really want it, you will. And those who don't want it won't, and you will stay at a low elo forever. I promise you, it is as simple as that. You keep looking every corner of the internet, you keep buying these courses for $200, they're not going to make you a better chess player unless you want to be a better chess player. It is all about discipline, it is about hard work, and every good chess player, even every amateur chess player, maybe just advanced around my elo, will tell you that they have had to work for their elo. It did not come naturally. That's not to say it's been like a chore or anything to get to this elo. It's been a lot of fun. I really did enjoy doing it, but you can't just mosey your way on. Nobody gets to 2000 elo by mistake. You have to put in the work, and I think that is the most important thing that anyone will ever tell you. And it's actually why I'm putting this piece of advice at the end of the video. A lot of people will just look at the first things, go off and do them, and think it's going to get them 100 elo. Really, it's the people that stay to the end of the video that is the best piece of advice I can give you. Become disciplined in what you are already doing. Do what you are already doing 100 times better, and you will be a better chess player. And that brings us to an end to this video. I hope you all have learned something from this. I really do. It's not easy to get to 2000 Elam in chess. I think that's the most important thing you can take out of this. It requires a lot of discipline and a lot of hard work. And I don't doubt that anyone watching this can achieve it. It's just a matter of how much you want it.